this meeting to order. This is the April 11th, 2013 meeting of the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. I am Ralph Robinette. I am chairman of the commission and will chair the meeting this evening. At this time, we will have introductions of other people. We'll start with our councilman liaison.
Rick Mihalovich, City Council Liaison.
Dale Vaughn.
Bunny Tricky Cotton.
Bob George.
Jack Deacon.
Chris Jordan.
Mike Lester.
Kevin Thanen.
Chris Yarnell.
Shane Wade, city staff.
Eric Barron, city staff.
Janice McMillan, city staff.
Sonny Sanders, city staff. Did it work?
No, you have to make the green light come on.
You heard me. Okay, thank you.
Maybe the light doesn't work.
We will start our meeting tonight with a special presentation, and Eric, would you introduce our guest?
Very briefly, Mr. Sonny Sanders works with for the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. We say it as CAMPO, and I'll let him describe a little bit about what it is he does, and also give a presentation.
I'm on. Okay. As Eric said, I am a, can you get the PowerPoint on there for me? I work with the city. I'm a city staff member, and I'm assigned to the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. We are actually going to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary soon. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. We are responsible for ensuring that the federal requirements of spending federal money is followed on transportation projects inside our metropolitan area, which extends outside of Jefferson City. As you can see, we go up as far as Lake Mikey, out to St. Martin's on the west, down to Taos and Wardsville, and areas in between. So that's sort of the area that we try to ensure the transportation planning process is followed according to federal law. This is a presentation that
questions? Thank you, Mr. Sanders. We've had a commissioner came in since we started our meeting. Ron, would you like to introduce yourself? The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. Alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of any regular members. A quorum is 5 members or alternates necessary to conduct a meeting. We do have a quorum present, so therefore we will have a meeting. Our commissioners absent tonight are Dave Nunn and Dean DeToy. Therefore, Kevin and Bunny, you get to vote. Are there any members who wish to disqualify themselves from any of the agenda items? On our agenda tonight, just to indicate if someone is here to represent them, case P130042118, South Hill Wood Drive amended final PUD plan, Mr. Bates. Case number P130051404 Karen Drive final subdivision plat of Brickyard Terrace subdivision. Mr. Bates, do you wish to continue any of those? All right, we will go forward then. Procedural matters. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the Planning Commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so I ask that when you speak, please step to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. After a brief introduction by city staff, the applicant and applicant's consultants and advisors will explain the project. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes. We will then ask to hear from any supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from any opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. After that, city staff will describe the proposal and make their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including staff reports, applicable findings, ordinances, and our statutes shall not be read into the record unless directed by the Commission. The Commission will then close testimony from the floor, and the Commission will then discuss the proposal and then make a motion on the request. The form of the motion shall be positive. That is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. And a final vote will then be taken, ayes in favor, nays opposed. And the chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. And the following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the city code as amended, the comprehensive plan and land use map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and/or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, the staff reports, the minutes of proceedings, letters, photos, memoranda, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, and the rules of procedure for the Jefferson City, Missouri Planning and Zoning Commission. And these items are public record and are available for inspection in the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. And please be advised that any items that are presented to the Planning Commission this evening become property of the Commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, renderings, petitions, and letters.
Thank you. You have the tentative agenda in front of you. We have no request for any continuance, so therefore the chair would entertain a motion to adopt the tentative amendment agenda at this time. Have a motion second to adopt the agenda as printed. All indicate in favor by saying aye. Opposed, nay. You have adopted the agenda. You also have in your packet the minutes of the last commission meeting. If you would like just a minute or two to look at those, then we'll approve those also. Everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Chair would entertain a motion regarding these amendments as printed.
Second.
A motion second to approve the minutes as printed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You have approved the minutes. We have no communications received at this time. Therefore, we will now go to the new business public hearing. For those who testify in any of these cases, we ask that you state your name and address so we can put it in our record. First case, case P1300421118, Scott Hill Wood Drive's amended final PUD plan. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, to orient you to the location of this request, it is Oscar's Restaurant on Shot Hill Woods Drive, just east of Eastland Drive. Up on the screen is a location map showing with the property highlighted. Eastland Drive is off here to the left-hand side of the screen, and then this is Shot Hill Woods Drive through the middle of the screen. The owners of Oscar's Restaurant actually own the lot that the restaurant is on, and then also the lot behind it. There's a short cul-de-sac beside the restaurant, Shot Hill Woods Court. The request is for an amended final PUD plan. The property zoned PUD, planned unit development, and it's kind of an unfortunate case. The restaurant actually caught fire on January 30th, and there was some pretty major damage to the interior of the restaurant. The owners are rebuilding the restaurant, and in the process of doing that, decided to include a building addition to the restaurant as well. For properties zoned PUD, building additions have to take the form of an amended PUD plan that must be approved through the Planning and Zoning Commission and then on to the City Council. So it's a fairly small addition, 12,000 square feet, and I have first I have an aerial photo showing the property as it is, was back in 2011. This is the restaurant and parking area. There's actually a drive-through lane off to the side of the restaurant, and then a gravel parking area that's used, I think, for employees and overflow back behind the restaurant. The amended PUD plan should be contained in your packets, and looks like this. Now north is kind of at an odd angle, but if you up on the screen, Shot Hill Woods Drive is off to the right. The short cul-de-sac is along the bottom of the screen, and so the parking lot out in front of the restaurant is there. This is the existing restaurant right here. The addition that they're wanting to construct is there on the back of the building. Again, it's about 1,200 square feet, and they would also, in order to meet the parking requirements for this now expanded use, they would actually construct a paved parking lot in a portion of that graveled area to the lot at the rear, and that's shown here in yellow. There's a bit of a parking analysis contained in the staff report. Essentially, they would meet their parking requirement with the construction of the new lot, paving of it. Other than that, I'd leave it to the consultant to add anything that I may have missed. I'd be happy to answer any initial questions.
Any questions of staff at this time? Okay, who is here to present the case? that your question, or should we ask that? I'm gonna guess that's the number one question in Jeff City, so if Kurt gets up here, I'm sure we'll ask him that question. Any questions of Mr. Bates? Thank you. Anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? Seeing none, we will close our public testimony. Staff report.
Staff recommendation's pretty short. The building addition would be a minor change in the site and would be accommodated by the proposed parking expansion. The recommended form of motion is for approval of the proposed final PUD plan amendment. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the proposed final PDU plan amendment.
I move that we approve the proposed final PUD plan amendment.
Have a second? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next case, P13005-1404 Karen Drive, final subdivision plot of Brickyard Terrace subdivision. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, for the benefit of the people in attendance, on the Oscars PUD case, it will go in front of the City Council again as a public hearing. The date for that meeting is May 20th. And that meeting takes place here in this room at 6 o'clock. Okay, next case, 1404 Karen Drive. This is a final subdivision plat, a Brickyard Terrace subdivision. First, to orient you to the location of this request, it is an item that was presented in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission at the November meeting, November 8th of 2012. The location of the property is shown up on the screen. It's located off of Karen Drive. The way you get to it basically is from High Street, taking Riverside Drive, and then turning onto Karen Drive, and then Karen Drive narrows into a very narrow driveway basically at this point right here, and goes back into the property. It kind of consists of two separate parts: a larger property, and then also a pair of lots from an older subdivision. This case was presented at the November meeting in the form of a preliminary PUD plan and preliminary plat, and was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission at that meeting, and went on to the City Council for final approval. At that time, it was mentioned that if approved, the developer would have to come back in front of this body with a final subdivision plat at a later date, and that's what this request is. There is also a final PUD plan that has been submitted by the developer to city staff, and city staff are in the process of reviewing that plan, and the city staff would be the approval authority for the PUD, final PUD portion of the plan, as long as it matches up to what was approved in their preliminary plan. Up on the screen is a zoning map showing with the property highlighted. The majority, a large portion of the property is zoned PUD, and that's the portion of the property that the PUD plan that I mentioned deals with. But there is some parts of the property that are zoned RS4, single family residential. And basically, the plat, which I'll show on the next screen, shows this portion of the property as 4 individual residential lots. One of them already has a house on it, and a lot would be platted around that existing house. There are two lots would be new, platted in this area right here, just side by side. And then a fourth lot has a house on it that is to be demolished, and a new house constructed in its place. And the reason for that was to accommodate a slightly expanded right-of-way a portion of the yard area of this lot would be taken as right of way. And in order to do that, the house would have to be demolished, and then, of course, a new one could be rebuilt with a slightly different footprint. And then Karen Drive, which I mentioned, narrows at Taylor Street to a very narrow, basically a driveway that is still maintained by the city street crews, would be reconstructed as a modern street, a cul-de-sac with a cul-de-sac bulb at the end. Here is a picture of the plat. Again, a large portion of the plat is shown as a single lot, which would be developed with the PUD plan, and then the 4 individual residential lots are shown. There are sidewalks shown on the north side of Karen Drive, so sidewalk would be constructed from Taylor Street to the cul-de-sac bulb. And I believe that's all I have. I'd like to turn it over to Shane Wade for engineering, I'm sorry. I think that's all I have for now. We'd be happy to answer any initial questions and leave Shane's report to the end.
Anyone have any questions of staff at this time? Okay, public testimony here. Who is here to present this case? Any questions of Mr. Bates? Thank you. Anyone else here to testify? Shannon? Any questions of Shannon? Well, I want to thank you and Mike for all the work you've done on this, because the crowd is a lot smaller here tonight, and the meeting will be a little bit shorter. So thank you, gentlemen, for working with that neighborhood out there. Is there anyone here opposed to this proposal? Seeing none, we'll close the public testimony. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize. I failed to mention that as is common when processing subdivision plats, we have sent our initial staff comments back to the consultant who has addressed those comments in the form of a new drawing, which is actually the new one is what's shown up on the screen. I think that we have not had a chance to go through that drawing and ensure that all of our technical comments have been made, or all of our technical comments have been addressed. There is I think just a few quick things to point out. One is a small reserve tract right there, which would actually be deeded to the owner of the house right there in order to ensure that they have street frontage on the new road. That combined with constructing transforming this driveway into a modern cul-de-sac really shows that this subdivision is going to clear up a few long-standing problems that have been in that area. Other than that, I'd like to turn it over to Shane to address the utility and stormwater side of things.
In regard to the improvements for the subdivision, as Eric and Mike had indicated, Karen Drive will be a cul-de-sac road, 28 feet wide. Parking would be allowed on one side of the street. It'd be allowed on the north side, same side as the sidewalk. Stormwater detention is being proposed. The proposal is to modify the existing pond that's on the northwest portion of the site, and actually it would remain as a retention basin. There would be a permanent water body there, but then also build enough storage into it so that it would address the additional drainage that would be generated by the new lots on the subdivision. There are going to be proposed, as far as the improvements, terraces and swales on the southern and eastern side of the property to minimize the amount of effect that the new development would have on the properties on Wilcoxon and along Lincoln, and direct the drainage to the north and the east. The northern portion of the property is actually a tributary of Boggs Creek, and so not only the outlet to the pond, but also the terrace and swales would be directed to that drainage way. As far as sanitary sewers, all lots are proposed to be served by either existing or by new extensions of the mains. As Eric had indicated, a 4-foot sidewalk's being proposed on the northern side of Karen Drive. Access would be to the intersection of the existing portion of Karen and to Taylor Street. And facilities, as far as utilities go, those are existing, and also new facilities are being proposed in accordance with city standards. And engineering division would concur with the recommendation to approve, subject to, as Eric had indicated, minor technical corrections.
And yes, that is the staff recommendation at the bottom of the planning division staff report. Staff recommends approval of the final subdivision plat subject to the following: one, compliance with the comments and technical corrections of the engineering division, and 2, finalization of improvement plans and plat prior to introduction to city council, which are our standard 2 conditions for a subdivision plat. I think we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff?
I have one, sir. On your stormwater pond, who does the maintenance on those?
If it's a retention basin, then it'll remain as a part of the PUD property, and it'll be private. The city will actually maintain the stormwater system off of the street and down to a point where it enters the PUD property. Generally, if it's a detention basin in those instances, we will, in some instances, take care of the. In this instance, the owner would. Yeah. Liability-wise, we would prefer to have a detention basin if it was something that we would end up maintaining.
Any other questions of staff? Mike, Shannon, do you all have any issues with the recommendation we're going to go with? Okay. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to read like the staff recommendation here, if somebody would like to try to do that.
Chairman, I'll do that for you. I'll make a motion to approve. I don't know where the verbiage is, but approve the final subdivision plat subject to the following items: compliance with the comments and technical corrections of the engineering division, and the finalization of the improvement plans and plat prior to the introduction to city council. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Other business. Michael, do you have a report for us this evening?
Actually, I do not. The Environmental Quality Commission did not meet last month.
Thank you for being our representative and serving on that for us. Do we have any other reports of business? Okay, she wants to hand out the survey. When do you want those back? Tonight? Whenever. Okay. You can stay and fill them out tonight, or fill them out and bring them into, and perhaps within a week.
Next month, we do have several cases. We're still in the process of kind of finalizing our case list, but we will, of course, be meeting next month, and I think we will have either 3 or 4 cases to present. So.
You want to stay and fill them out while Ann and I will stay here and wait for them a few moments if you want them. Yeah, or you can drop them off the office within the next week, within a week. Any other business? Any other reports? Your vice chair will chair the meeting next in May. I will not be here in May, so thank you for your attendance tonight, and I hope you have a lot of cases. Thanks for coming. We're adjourned.
I think one of them's an annexation, so. Of city-owned property.